hear this? You are not alone. This is the resistance. You are not alone. This is the resistance. You are not alone. This is the resistance.
Now, you don't know it yet, but you are listening to History in the Making while you are listening to this show.
We know now that in the early years of the 20th century, this world was being watched closely by intelligences greater than man, yet as mortal as his own.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!"
Censored by the mainstream media, the destroyer of fake news, and your host of the Rundown Live, Kristan T. Harris.
Welcome to another edition of the Rundown Live, rundownlive.com. I'm your host, Kristan T. Harris, and we'll be diving into a lot of interesting information today, so don't go anywhere. Want to welcome our listeners from KGRA-DB, Hudson Valley, New York, Salt Lake City, Utah, broadcasting live out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and boy, do we have an exciting program for you guys today, so don't go anywhere. We're going to be diving into what is the New World Order? That seems to be the new cliche term. We're hearing it all across the world amongst the rebels, even in Ukraine. It's just crazy. This conspiracy that has been outright blowing up all across the world and has been getting credence over the years has been really taking place and evolving into, what George Bush said it was. Did you remember that popular George Bush speech? Well, we'll be diving into that as well. I want to first shout out and let you guys know, to people in the chat, thank you guys for commenting all the time. Drop comments, helps us beat the evil algorithm. Send us thumbs up. You can send us emails, show tips at the Rundown Live. You can tweet us or get us on Getter. Just look up the Rundown Live. We are there. Or Kristan Harris on Vi Jr. My co-host is here with us. But people forget, this term, New World Order, has been around for a long, long time. As you know, Don mentioned to me before the show, I posted an Adam Weishaupt quote from my Facebook because it was one of the first times I heard or seen the quote was by Adam Weishaupt about a New World Order. And it's, what is the New World Order to you? And what does it mean? And what is it really in history? Because a lot of people, it's like they rule the planet. Well, who's they? Who are the people responsible? Who are they in bed with? Are they in bed with Putin? You better believe it. Are they in bed with Ukraine? You better believe it. They're in bed with just about every aspect of every government. That's how they try to control things from the background. And this idea and this plan is not a new plan. It was formulated many years ago. Some believe it started in the Masonic lodges under the guise of Adam Weishaupt, a Jesuit leader of the organization that has been disbanded called the Bavarian Illuminati. He was the one that pushed for the fact that no one should own any private property. Here it is. It is up to us. No one is coming to help us. If we don't make the effort, no one else will. And it's time for the twilight of idols. It's time for a new dawn, a new humanity, and a new world order. It's time for the dawn of the gods. Quote from Adam Weishaupt. And when we start looking and start thinking into these things, and all these prominent people over the years that want an abolition of private property, of the family, destruction of religion, and formulation of a one world religion, that has always been riddled in conspiracy. So we're going to dive down into that. We're going to give you updates on Ukraine. There's more fake news coming out of Ukraine. And why is it so important? Now, I want to let you guys, listeners, know this is straight out of Ukraine. Here's an interview with a person in Ukraine who is fighting against or representing the fight against Russia. Here we go.
Right now, it's a critical time because we know that we not only fight for Ukraine, we fight for this new world order for the democratic countries. We knew that we are the shield for the Europe.
And there we have it. We're going to play it one more time. I want you guys to listen really carefully. What does she say? This is Ukraine. These, like, if you go on your Facebook, not only are there people trying to tell you that, yeah, there's Nazis in Ukraine. They're not all Nazis. There's like Louis mentioned, there's thousands of them. But that like they're openly fighting for Ukraine, right? And we're sending them supplies, and that's interesting. Like, should we be doing that? Do we support that ideology? Why is it that we have so much support for Ukraine and not Russia? And is it xenophobic and xenophobia taking over America, being anti-Russian? Because let's be honest, I'm not rooting for either of them. War is not good in any way, shape, or form. No one needs to die. But here you have it. You have this person from Ukraine representing them, saying that they are fighting for the New World Order. I thought that was a conspiracy.
Right now, it's a critical time because we know that we not only fight for Ukraine, we fight for this new world order for the democratic countries. We knew that we are the shield for the Europe.
And that's right. They need their fembots. That's essentially what they are. They're putting up hot chicks with guns, and they're like, we fight for the New World Order. And if you guys haven't, if you've been on the edge, like now we have George Soros coming out in support for Ukraine. Like the New World Order actors are coming out in support for Ukraine. Elon Musk is moving satellites in support. Like, I get it. Okay, satellites are one thing. I don't support war, but I support people's right to defend themselves. Do I agree with what Russia is doing? Absolutely not. Do I support Putin? Absolutely not. But I want you guys to understand that Putin is being pushed in this direction by these globalists in the open society. In fact, we talked about during the Trump era, and I'm not saying Trump was necessarily, the all-end hero either, as we're learning more about the whole Epstein trials. I was at the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, and Trump being, involved with Epstein multiple times or visiting. We're not quite sure what went on there. He hasn't really addressed it, but there's a lot of interest because he wasn't really into globalism. So you had the United States, you had Canada, and you had Russia, which was completely three different ideas of what a world order could be. United States, the citadel of freedom, allegedly, right? Trump gave like this new form of nationalism where people were proud to be Americans, and we can't have that, the New World Order said. The open society's like, you can't love America. What the hell? They're making money. There's job rates are down, unemployment is down, job rates are way up. We can't have that in America. Well, here's COVID. And what we're seeing is different forms and ideas of what the New World Order. This is a power battle right now to define who your slave master will be. Will it be the George Soros's open society global mafia state? Will it be the Chinese communist regime? Or would it be the United States, where it seems like the United States is now bought in to the open society with the presidency of Joe Biden? And what we're seeing around the world is this overall viewpoint. So what is the New World Order? I'm telling you that lady's definition of the New World Order, whatever she thinks it is, it's not what our definition is.
Right. And, this premise of a new world order is one it's swept around the globe and really has taken root for multiple decades. I do disagree with a certain, few things about Trump when it comes to that. I think that he was propped up to look like a nationalist. But I mean, if you look at his foreign policy and the way that, people love to say that we had no wars during Trump, which is a load of BS. When, even if we have no new wars, he's still proliferating and exacerbating all of our existing wars. And, as I mentioned yesterday, the United States is essentially the military arm of the New World Order, with the way that we spread globalism and imperialism around the globe. So, but it's okay to disagree on that front. But the larger fact of the matter is this idea of a new world order has been spread by Obama, by John McCain, by George H.W. Bush. Even John F. Kennedy had mentioned a new world order. he was one of the few that didn't come out in support of it, but he did mention it in a speech of his.
He
which
warned about it.
Exactly. So it makes you wonder why he was killed the way he was.
Yeah, we just don't know. And there's tons of quotes by influential people throughout history using the term New World Order. Henry Kissinger, Bill Clinton, George Bush, just about anyone on the right and the left that seems to be like a neoconservative or a super ultra leftist. Here's a video for you guys. This is the President of the United States, the most popular speech ever viewed on the internet by George Bush.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a new world order, a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, when we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
And there we have it. That was a Rundown Live clip made a couple of years ago. And basically, there you have the President of the United States, very creepily and eerily, like, we will have a one world order. We will have a new world order. It will be here, and we will have a peace. But they don't mean peace by diplomacy. Like, Don, it's not like we're sitting down at the table. Like, look at Putin tried to sit down at the table with Ukraine. Ukraine said, And, they're being propped up by these globalists, by the open society. So what we see, and, I kind of get into the whole fact that an enemy of my enemy is my friend in this kind of situation. Like, I don't agree with Putin. I don't agree with his whole situation. I think that he's going to be forced to join sides with China because they're both anti-globalism per se, just like the United States would be if the Trump administration was still in office. So like him attacking and going after the New World Order or the open society, global mafia state, that is what George Soros describes the open society as at Davos in 2017 in an interview, like, isn't necessarily a bad thing. I'm kind of wondering what we're going to see here and what kind of retaliation. And with nuclear weapons, like, let's talk about this. Putin moved his family to an underground bunker, right? Is that telling? I'm not quite sure. That means that he's probably either psychologically playing a move that he would like people to think that he'd hit the nuke button, or he's actually considering it.
That's more so my analysis of the situation, is that I think, because people have to remember, and I want to touch on something I mentioned yesterday, just to elaborate a little further, just so people don't get it twisted. When I was talking about how Russia is in their way, opposing, fighting to oppose this new world order, that doesn't necessarily mean, as I said, that he's a good guy. Russia and Putin, they have his own ideas for a new world order. He wants a Russian-led new world order, not a Soros globalist open society-led new world order, just like the communist Chinese being hardcore, Chinese, hardcore Chinese nationalist communists. They don't want a George Soros globalist new world order, which is why Soros has spoken out against the Xi Jinping regime, but they do want a Chinese-led new world order. So it's essentially all of these new world order puppets, or all of these globalist autocrats and oligarchs essentially fighting each other or arguing with each other over who actually gets to control and shape the new world order in their own image. So when it comes to Putin, I think that really is the case. And I was reading this piece from James Corbett last night, who did a really fantastic job of really taking the facts and putting things back in perspective and reiterating a number of these facts. Putin is very close to globalist figures like Henry Kissinger, and a number of other points that he made out to very concisely demonstrate that Russia has its own issues with the New World Order. Putin being a former KGB colonel, he himself has called for a New World Order at times. So it's this whole cluster F, essentially, of these individuals, vying for supremacy in a way.
Well, look at, who wrote the book on the New World Order? Adolf Hitler. He had a book literally called New World Order, didn't he?
I believe so, if I remember correctly, yes.
Like that's the kind of that's who you're in cahoots with. Hitler's New World Order. That was a phrase that he used, the New Order, quite often, which was Nazism. So is this really essentially the Fourth Reich that we're up against, these Nazi sympathizers in Austria? Because look at the groups that are all involved with the New World Order. Let's dive into some of the nitty gritty details. So you got these groups like the Trilateral Commission. I think it was it Barry Goldwater who had a quote on this, but the Trilateral Commission was started by the same people that were involved with starting the Bilderberg Group. And then out of the Bilderberg Group, we have the Club of Rome, we have the Council on Foreign Relations, and now we have the World Economic Forum. And it's interesting because this is essentially the formation of the New World Order. People sounded the alarm about this New World Order, and now people are on TV and they're like, yeah, we fight for the New World Order, and it's still a conspiracy.
Right. And we have these groups that are like essentially offshoots of offshoots. How the World Economic Forum is an offshoot of the Bilderberg Group, and the Bilderberg Group is essentially an offshoot of the globalist political order that Hitler wanted to establish, and even that was an offshoot of Bavarian, Bavarian Illuminati Adam Weishaupt, because the Hitler regime was funded by the Rothschilds, just like the Soviet Union is, and just like this whole situation is. We have the figures like Kissinger and Rothschilds and whatnot. Best believe behind the scenes they're backing both sides of this thing, just like they always have every single war, because all warfare is based on deception. As Sun Tzu said that back in the day, and I think more people need to read The Art of War, because even if you read The Art of War and you're not a soldier, if you're not on the front lines, I think it's still the lessons imbued in that book and that you can learn from it is still applicable in everyday situations, whether it be psychologically, whether it be personally. It doesn't necessarily have to apply to just straight up combat.
Yeah. Well, the first thing in The Art of War that you kill is the truth, like information that goes out there. And on the Rundown Live, we have an article, the 7 fake news stories coming out of Ukraine. And it blows my mind that the mainstream media, you think these fact checkers would be gobbling up to be like, yum, 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 give me all that fake news. I can write articles all day on it. But we're not really seeing any fact checking by the mainstream media, not a whole lot of it, on some of these stories that are going viral. And fake news is still continuing to go viral. And it's not just coming out of Ukraine, it's coming out of Russia too.
Yeah, it's coming out of Russia. It's coming out of the United States. It's coming out of everywhere. It's being essentially saturated, especially all over social media. I mean, the way social media sort of spreads this, it's like a cancer. And honestly, there's so many reasons why I can't stand social media. If I didn't need social media for my career as a news personality, I swear to God, I would have deleted it so long ago. But we have so many of these fake stories coming out, and we really touched on this yesterday. And spent a lot of time debunking this. And then right after we got off air, I came across this article by Kit Knightley from the Off Guardian, which if you haven't heard of the Off Guardian, definitely follow them, add them to your little repertoire of outlets that you follow, because Kit Knightley and his team always does an amazing job over there. But I came across this article from the Off Guardian with even more examples of what we hadn't touched on yesterday. For example, further down, he talks about these, Syrian, or these videos of these Syrian or Yemeni airstrikes, being passed off as Ukrainians, destroying Russian troop movements. Or we have this one right here, which is the plane allegedly flying over to Kiev, when in reality it was from Moscow a few years ago.
People are so easily manipulated into believing things are true. We see it on Tickety Talk, right? Good old TikTok. And we're like, oh, it must be true. So this is the danger of having an open internet. And you're going to see the mainstream media narrative and the government narrative is we need to push for more censorship because there's misinformation out there. However, we need to be wise in our decision making on what is real news and what is not real news. We should be holding off on picking sides or supporting any of the causes, although war is bad, murder is bad, diplomacy would be the ideal way to solve things, right? But what we're seeing is like globalists fully funding and getting behind Ukraine, which is essentially pushing people to be tribal. No one is checking the facts. No one is looking up to seeing if whether anything is true. We live in a world now where people get their news from headlines. They don't read the articles. They even set alarms on Facebook. Yeah, you didn't read this. Why are you sharing this? Like, literally read the articles. Know what you're sharing, because people, like a lot of my friends are full on Ukraine supporters, and they don't understand that there's Nazis in Ukraine, and a lot of them are leftists, which is interesting. You know, it's completely against a lot of the things that you would think that they believe in. Right.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine just earlier this morning. You know, I saw that she had shared this photo of Vladimir Zelensky. You know, he's hugging his kids, and then the other photo, he's standing there strong in his suit with his arms crossed, and then the other photo, he's like, you know, visiting the troops and whatnot. And you know, as you know, right there in the article, you see him standing right there in his not that one, a little further up. You know, you see him standing there in his, you know, uniform right there, and it's being passed off as if, oh, look at him on the front lines supporting his people. That was from April of last year. He's not out there. As we mentioned, as I hit on yesterday, you know, this guy is one of the most corrupt oligarchs in all of Europe. He's turned Ukraine into one of the most corrupt nations. I mean, it'd already been, you know, a really corrupt nation, but he and his predecessor, following the 2014 coup, turned Ukraine into one of the most corrupt nations in Europe, only second in corruption to Russia itself. So
what is some of the corruption? Like, give us some details, dive down, because this is a little bit more your forte, diving into the details of the corruption in Ukraine and global politics.
Well, essentially, you know, the corruption you would find anywhere else. You know, pay for play, backdoor deals. You know, money laundering, screwing people over.
Typical government, which what we see here.
Yeah, so just to a more extreme degree.
Right.
Yeah. So basically, just think the corruption you see in Russia, just a little less watered down.
So also, they go on to say we discussed the power plant yesterday, the power station explosion, which was interesting. Russian warship, the go F yourself, we discussed. Here's the Syrian drone strike, which we didn't get into yesterday. Another video doing the rounds again, shared by official Ukrainian accounts, was drone footage supposedly showing the destruction of a column of Russian vehicles. It's actually footage of a Turkish drone strike in Syria from 2020. Like, really? The mainstream media is purposely aggregating fake news, fake videos, and people are just, you know, buying it hook, line, and sinker. They're not bothering to check the facts, to dive into the articles. And that's something that we like to do on the show for you, is kind of bring you a little bit more in-depth viewpoint of what's happening. There's a lot of people out there and smart listeners who are like, well, we know a lot of this stuff already, but the consequences are getting wild. They're getting wild. Did you see that the censorship has been ramped up overnight?
I have, and it's absolutely insane. You know, in addition to, I'm assuming what you're hitting at is the fact that Russia is RT, partially funded by the Kremlin, Russian media, is now being heavily throttled in Europe, and it's essentially being attempted to be banned. People are calling for it to be banned, and it's like, you know, you're not banning NPR, which is directly funded by U.S. media, or directly funded by U.S. corporate interests. You know, they're not banning Telesur, which is, you know, for all of my folks out there who don't follow international media like a geek like I do, it's a South American news channel. And, you know, it's partially funded by the Venezuelan government. You know, we're getting into very dangerous territory when we start talking about banning news outlets that present dissenting opinions, especially RT, considering that they have over the years done an amazing job of calling out and debunking so many of these false American narratives. It was RT that actually helped expose the fact that it was the United States supporting and facilitating Islamic extremists in Syria that ended up being ISIS and the Jabhat al-Nusra, which is essentially the Syrian offshoot of Al-Qaeda. You know, it's RT that has helped expose a lot of these things. And, you know, I have colleagues of mine, Rachel Blevins and many others, not just at RT, but colleagues in general.
Swan is over there. Who else have we had? Was it Watching the Hawks? That's with Ventura there, Tyrell Ventura. You know, Sean Stone, I think, is over there. Another friend. There's a lot of like good independent grassroots journalists that went there. Lee Camp is on RT. Like,
yeah, exactly. And and it's not just RT. I mean, RT is really experiencing the brunt of this, but in addition to the censorship, we're also seeing this vile, venomous sort of attack against anyone that dares question the official narrative, just like we did back in the day. I mean, sure, everyone remembers, January 20th, or not January, September 20th, 2001. George Bush gets in front of Congress. You're either with us or you're with the terrorists. I'm sure anyone who's old enough to remember that remembers that. And just the absolute vitriol that came following that. If you dared express an opinion dissenting against the Americanist consensus, you were a traitor, you were an Al-Qaeda supporter, F you, go live in Afghanistan, all that sort of nonsense. And we're seeing that now. There's so many reporters, Rachel Blevins, Dan Cohen, Aaron Matze, Max Blumenthal, who are simply reporting on facts and are receiving death threats, inundated with hundreds of death threats within the past few days, and accusations of being Russian agents and all this. It's nonsense.
It's funny. You're either with us or with the terrorists, but it was the government that was with the terrorists all along. Saudi Arabia.
Exactly.
It just blows my mind. Here it is. This isn't Summit.news, by the way. And getting into some details, Facebook, Twitter, Google, Netflix, all block Russian news broadcasts contact at direct behest of the European Union. So they don't want you to know or hear or have any idea of what Russian news is giving you guys. Why is it that, like, as a listener, I want you to think about why is it that they don't want you to know the Russian narrative? And of course, they're going to say propaganda, but the West is aggregating propaganda at like ludicrous speed. If you've ever seen Spaceballs, that's faster than the speed of light. Like only bad news travels faster than ludicrous speed. Bad news. There's nothing that travels faster than bad news. I'm pretty convinced. People already know when something happens. So here it is. Big tech has moved in lockstep to censor Russian news networks Sputnik and RT, further ensuring the Westerners only receive one narrative when it comes to coverage of the conflict in Ukraine. Facebook is restricting access to content from RT and Sputnik on both its main social media platform and Instagram, following requests from a number of governments, according to the company's vice president, Nick Clegg. So, first of all, this is foreign governments telling them to censor American and global media, including the United States. Why are they deciding whether or not we can see things in the United States when it isn't the United States calling for the censorship? I mean, from my understanding, this is actually only going to take effect in Europe. So far, in Europe, okay.
Yeah.
That makes more sense. I'm like, of course, I would assume that it would also happen here in the United States. It says we
probably will.
Requests from a number of governments and the EU to take further steps in relation to Russian state-controlled media. Given the exceptional nature of the current situation, we will be restricting access to RT, Sputnik across the EU at this time. So it's just Europe, but
for now.
So that means those Europeans out there from the UK who tune into the Rundown Live, guess you're going to have to get your Ruski news from us here. By the way, we're heading to commercial break. Don't go anywhere. We need your help. If you want to support us today, we are heading out to the People's Convoy. We need donations. You can donate via therundownlive.com. There's links in the chat. We'll get them there for you. We'll be back after these messages from the people that make this show happen.
I don't want to talk about it.
I don't want to talk about it.
Families don't have to talk about everything, but they should talk about how to plan for an emergency. Get tips and resources to make your family's emergency plan.
Hey members, the new KGRA-DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA-DB programming. Download any show. directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA-DB.
Welcome to the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. Here you'll find great new content, including the KGRA Classics, great shows from our archives. You'll be able to see the show times and information so you can see what show is currently on air. The on-air live button. So just go to this section and you'll be able to hear the show live with exceptional sound quality. We also have the Vault section. Make sure to subscribe to get access to great content and special features. We have the make content for our latest news and events, so make sure to sign up and you can be part of our forum. So make sure to check out the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. We look forward to seeing you there, and we hope that you enjoy the new website.
And we're back from break on KGRA-DB, band.video. We're also live on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, and multiple other platforms. You can support us on therundownlive.com. And we've been diving into what is this New World Order and how it's really coming into play now and coming to fruition in 2022, as we now have audio from Ukraine of people saying, yeah, we're here to fight for the New World Order. Here it is.
Now it's a critical time because we know that we not only fight for Ukraine, we fight for this new world order for the democratic countries. We knew that we are the shield for the Europe.
And there we go. We're just diving into this for a moment here and kind of getting people to understand who they are, right? Who are they? And when we were diving into like these different groups that are involved, one of the groups that, you know, has been exposed by people like good old Alex Jones and secretive people like even William Cooper talking about Bohemian Grove, of all these groups. There's a chart exposing how the Bilderberg Group controls the entire world. And this is how a collective group of 130 people essentially have worked around and been invited to these lucrative meetings. They're involved in a lot of these occultic type groups, and they literally pull the strings of business through a small conglomerate and handful of major power groups, including the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, and who knows what else happens behind the scenes. So this is called a chart exposing how the Bilderberg Group controls the entire world. It's available on Collective Evolution.
It was available on Collective Evolution, but I had to plug it into archive.md because since they've moved over to the Pulse, their servers, a lot of the older articles have now been essentially made defunct. So you got to find like screenshots of them on Archive.
Yeah, and for those out there that don't know, if you haven't already heard by now, yes, a small group of people and corporations they run completely have the ability to control a lot of aspects of human life, whether it be health, food or finance, media, and education. Each major area and the resources that go into it are dictated and selected by this group. Look at the World Health Organization. Look at the World Economic Forum. I want you guys to think about where did these groups come from and what group gave them birth. the Bilderberg Group, the Bohemian Grovers. The crazy thing about it is the fact that nobody really knows who these people are, but it's becoming more clear that our political system and those who make decisions and set global policy every year are always in attendance. The group is extremely secretive and has been meeting for decades. While the public has little knowledge of what was going on and who was in the attendance, the world did not really become aware of this group until only a few short years ago. And since then, alternative media, independent media, and multiple journalists have been swarming attendees and seeking out where these meetings are held each year, while mainstream media completely ignores it. And I want you guys to know we've had Mr. Mark Anderson on the show. He was Jim Tucker's protege. He's one of the guys that helped expose the Bilderberg Group. But going further, attendees continue to keep their silence. And I've been there. At 2017, I went to the Bilderberg Group. They won't say anything. And like they always say things that are like cliche, like, oh, we are discussing how to expose aliens to the world. We talked about UFOs and, New World Order, ha, 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 ha. And then they would basically mock people who ask them questions. Very rarely do we get any truth. But I want you to think about this. We're talking about the major financial players of the world, representatives of all the big banks, corporations, and various sectors of the government and politics, intelligence agencies, and more. There's also other groups like the Wolfsburg Group, which is bankers' secret society. Below is a little quote from 1991 given by David Rockefeller, who Glenn Zarmanov was on the show. He was talking about the Rockefellers and how they built New York and how the 9/11 operation was in part an occult ritual. And if you want to hear more, you can listen to that episode. But David Rockefeller, which really gives the reader a good idea of what might be going on here. The transcript is from a 1991 Bilder Group meeting in Baden, Germany, proving how diluted Rockefeller's views truly were. Bill Clinton also attended this meeting, along with many other members of the elite class. I'm sure Rockefeller stated what is the following, quote, "We are grateful to the Washington Post, the New York Times, Time Magazine, and other publications whose directors have attended our meetings and respected their promises of discretion for almost 40 years. It would have been impossible for us to develop our plan for the world if we had been subject to the bright lights of publicity during those years. But the world is now more sophisticated and prepared to march toward a world government. The supranational sovereignty of an intellectual elite and world bankers is surely preferable to the national auto-determination practiced in the past century. Rockefeller was one of the main people, by the way, who have been on the steering committee at the Bilderberg Group. Henry Kissinger is another one. Henry Kissinger is the one that gave Nazis prominent positions in Operation Paperclip. Let's not.
Yeah. It's interesting how figures like that always have their hands on both sides. Like I said earlier,
George Soros, another one.
Yeah. How I said earlier, they funded both sides of the war, how the Illuminati offshoots and other organizations gave rise to both Nazism and communism. Now we have, Nazi collaborators like George Soros and, backing Ukraine. We have Henry Kissinger establishing, communist China, setting up the Mao Zedong regime. So it's, they have their fingers in everything.
Well, and it's interesting to see that Soros came out against China, who's against the global government, who's against the open society. Well, I mean, I'm not surprised, but they've always been deemed to be the roadmap to this new world order. Think about that, though. Is this where the global elites set their plans for conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses? Like, they have all the media there. They can control narratives, how they can spin things, how they can social engineer the public, and what is required. It was also a Bilderberg whistleblower that warned in 2009 on conspiracy theory with Jesse Ventura, True TV's #1 program on the network, until they pulled it and they kept pushing the times back. And boy, he got messed with over there. She came on and she said that the Bilderberg Group wanted to cull the world by 90% because the World Health Organization had a secretive meeting on eugenics, which there's quotes by Henry Kissinger talking about forced vaccination that leaked out of that event, but there's no way to prove it one way or another that it occurred. Very interesting, though. Basically, that they could have forced vaccination and COVID. So basically, this whistleblower came out and said that they were going to use a virus and that the cure, a vaccine, would be responsible for the culling of the world. And whether or not that's true, we don't know. Could COVID have been a legitimate thing? Absolutely. It could. It definitely was let loose by China, or came out of China. We don't know. Obviously, we believe it came out of the Wuhan laboratory now. Was it bioengineered? It looks like it through biohacking. We're starting to get more facts. But what we see as a result is now we got Ukrainian soldiers being like, I fought for the new world order. Woo! And people all across the world are now like, yeah, go Ukraine. Like they're slowly trying to make terms synonymous with a movement. And we're going to start seeing this more. I promise you. We're going to see more violence and more things of leftists pushing this idea of a new world order because they're brain dead. They're just sheep. That's what the way their shepherd is bringing them. And these globalist organizations, which we call the New World Order, and we're naming the players right now. When people ask you, who are they? That's what we're talking about. Right now, we're drilling into the Bilderberg group, and it's mass manipulation. That's what these groups are used for. Majority of media was owned at one point by a larger amount than it is now, but most of it's owned by 5 companies. Now there's a larger and growing independent feeling in media because people are battling for your social engineering and your mind. They don't want you to think for yourself. But according to Edward Bernays, one of who roamed the circles of Bilderberg, it's an important element in democratic society. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of our country. We are governed, our minds are molded, our taste formed, our ideas suggested largely by men we have never met or heard of. And that's from Propaganda in 1928, and showing you that this has been going on for a long, long time.
Yeah. There are even, I wish I could remember exactly what it was verbatim, or I would have pulled it up. But there's even quotes from Woodrow Wilson, but back in his administration, talking about a one world order, the move towards a new world order, one world government. So, this has been, long standing. And it's not to say, because of course you'll get the detractors to say, oh, you guys really believe that there's been a plan for a new world order for thousands of years and it hasn't come about. And it's not necessarily that it's been the same plan in place for thousands of years, but it's been the same ideology of these elitist groups that want to get together and conspire to create a one world government. And in one form or another, those ideas have continued to progress throughout time, from the Illuminati to the Bilderberg group to whomever is in charge of their World Economic Forum. And so it's the idea of a new world order, essentially, that has lasted throughout the eons, and even going back to Babylon, and the idea of putting together this one world cabal. Didn't the Babylonian kings talk about that as well?
That's why they call it a new world order. King Nimrod was the ruler of the old world order, and that's where we get a lot of the Luciferianism. At least that's as far back as we can date a lot of the sun worship, astrotheology. Nimrod was the sun deity. He was the first king to wear a crown. A crown represents the sun and its rays. Also, Semiramis, I kill her name every time I say it. Well, somebody out there's got to, fix that. I got to go out there and learn how to say her name. It was the moon goddess, and that's why we get the colors and wealth of gold and silver. Silver, the moon; gold, the sun, as well as what is it? The 1,000 points of light. It's Nimrod, the sun deity, and Semiramis, the moon goddess, and their followers, the 1,000 stars. Also, the Statue of Liberty, based on the Medal of Honor website, states it was based off of the Whore of Babylon, Semiramis. She's also known for hanging gardens, but what they really wanted to do is they believed through their own work, they too could become as if they were gods. And they took their whole ancient society and learned that it was really hard to get people to believe in them as a deity. So what they did is they instituted, cannibalism, child sacrifice, and they basically deified themselves, that when they died, their religion or their heirs would be viewed as the leader reincarnated, or Nimrod reincarnated. That's where you get the story of Tammuz, and a lot of our holidays all come from this, because Tammuz was born on December 25th, and he was the son of the mighty warrior Nimrod, who wanted to collectively develop a one world government. He was a mighty builder, and he's also considered the founder of the craft of Freemasonry, based on the old Constitution. They changed that to King Solomon in the 1700s, I believe, if I remember my Masonic history. But Nimrod was a very evil leader. A lot of people don't know that. He was a mighty hunter before God, before as in against in the old tongue, and he allegedly was a hunter of souls, and that's where you get the Cupid, the hunter of your soul. And a lot of these traditions that we have all come from Babylon. The days of the week: Sun is for Sunday, the day you worship Nimrod. Monday is for Moon Day, the day you worship the moon goddess. And it ties into that Trinity. You have Nimrod, Semiramis, and Tammuz. You have Isis, Horus, and Ra. And then you have God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. And there's this whole duality of what is the real illumination. Is it the illumination of Christianity, the city on a hill, the lighthouse in the darkness, the light in the darkness, the illumination in church? Just think about it. Like, if you went to church, you notice that all your songs are about illumination or wanting to be in the light, like you are in the light. Was that DC Talk, in the light? Like, it's all like this duality, that there's this Christian version of things that are happening, and this perverted version of Luciferianism, which is just astrotheology, and the Bible being just this very poetic book of a mystery that has lifelong lessons you can learn in it. So there's this whole thing that dives into it. So this New World Order, right? They want to bask in the religion of Nimrod. That's why they interbreed to this very day, because Nimrod had sex with his mother and wife, Semiramis, and therefore received the all-seeing eye of illumination. That was the whole idea of the intercourse ritual. So the elitists today, the kings and queens of the world, still wear the crown because they're supposed to illuminate their servants, and they are still interbreeding to keep their bloodlines pure, just like Nimrod did. And those were the practices of the mystery religions. And even the term cannibal translates in etymology to Babylonian priest. So we see that, like, when we talk about cannibalism on the show and synthetic cannibalism, it's a religion thing. When we talk about abortion, it's this Luciferian sacrificial religious thing. It's just the modern version of Babylonian sacrificial rituals. And these elitists, a lot of them, they believe this. This is what they believe. This isn't what I believe. This is what they believe to be the world around them. That's why you have famous bankers coming out and saying that they were invited to do child sacrifice in satanic temples, because that stuff really goes on, whether you want to believe it or not. And even in nations in Africa, they still do sacrifices of humans. Like, there's places in the world that things still happen like this. So like the New World Order is basing their religion off the old world order. And the politics in Babylon, where you control education, right? You control religion, state-run religion, and then you have your state-run context of no private property. You share everything, and that's what we really saw all throughout history. They consolidate the wealth and power between a few, and that's what this is. This is a war for the power of the world order, and it's either now or never. Just look at all the futurism and the way things are going with robots, and this is the time for the elitists to make their power move, and this is the thing of biblical prophecy, amongst many other things out there. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to rant and rave and bring you guys all that information. But to understand what the New World Order, I think it's important to understand where the terms the Old World Order come from. Open up your Masonic encyclopedia, Albert Mackey, and look up what Nimrod was and who he was, and the Noahites and who they were. And they were builders, and he was a famous builder. He built many cities. Maybe that's why pyramids look like they were all built by the same masons. And the founder of the craft of Freemasonry, allegedly. But that's everyone has a different history or view on what history is. So that being said, that's the Masonic tie. there's an old order of people that probably still believe this in Masonry. Obviously, you have the Henry Kissinger Freemason. You have Rockefeller Big Mason. They all go through these rites, and for some reason, that is the path to illumination. And so that's why so many people get involved in Freemasonry, to find out that it's just not that anymore, because most Masons don't believe that. They believe they came from King Solomon. They're very biblical, and just like anyone like else or out there, they have different complex differences that separate them as individuals. And what we're really talking about with globalism is the destruction of individualism. So very interesting stuff. And that's where the old world order comes from. So those same bloodlines, it is believed that the Rothschilds claim they came from Nimrod, that that's their lineage. Whether or not that's true, I don't know, but they sure have a real initiative to make this new world order happen. And these bankers, I believe, have the ability, but they also want to call the planet. And that's what we're reading about in these prophesized books. It's almost like the Bible was written to program people to believe that the new world order is going to happen and accept it, because it's that whole ritualistic or magic of telling people what you're going to do to them before it happens. And of course, they're transhumanist, antichrist will reign, and whatever happens. So I don't know. It's just interesting all around.
Yeah, you know, you don't really need to apologize for ranting, because it's really important, you know, long-winded though it may be, for people to understand a lot of that history, you know, because that's, you know, you can't understand where we're at and where we're going unless you understand where we've been, you know, to put it in a metaphorical concept. And, you know, it's just one of those things that people really need to grasp that. And, you know, hearkening back to, you know, jumping on what I was saying about how, you know, this concept of a new world order has been around throughout history, you know, for thousands and thousands of years, even going back to the time of Babylon and even before that. You know, there's still going to be people out there that say, well, oh, that's a ludicrous conspiracy theory. But I mean, you know, anyone who's, you know, been a nerd like me and, you know, buried their heads in history books for so long, you can just look back through history and look at all of the very known, well-known plans of attempted world domination, not just through Adolf Hitler, but look at Alexander the Great, the Roman Empire, Genghis Khan, you know, Attila the Hun. You know, they have, all of these individuals have sought and attempted, and in many ways succeeded in conquering much of the known world during their time. So this idea that powerful people aren't going to seek out world domination, it's not a conspiracy theory. It's just a fact that's as old as time, basically.
Yeah, there's always people that want to consolidate wealth and power, and that's what communism really is. The communism came out of the Adam Weishaupt Masonic lodges. Okay, the ideas of communism stemmed and resulted of growing into multiple different organizations, like the People's the People's Movement or the World People's Movement, the Bund Society, which was an organization used to infiltrate religion. And their first goal was to get people to admit that their book was written by people and humans and not, you know, Cain and law handed down by God. So, and they infiltrated these organizations. That was exposed. That's what the whole book, eliminate the opiate, or to eliminate the opiate, is about. Very interesting. And the whole goal was to destroy religion, just like Adam Weishaupt wanted to destroy the idea of private property. Klaus Schwab, World Economic Forum, you should not have any private property. Those were the 7 main ideologies of the Illuminati, were like, you can't have family, no family, destruction of the family, meaning, you know, like Melissa Harris Perry said, your children don't belong to you; they belong to the community. You belong to the state. You're literally owned by your government, per se. I mean, we kind of are now with Social Security.
And you know, there's a fantastic article by out of Waking Times. I know, you know, for those that have missed it, we had the editor of Waking Times, Dylan Charles Hunt, on with us a few episodes ago. Definitely go check that out. You know, but you know, Waking Times in and of itself is an amazing outlet, because they do such good work at, you know, covering a lot of these subjects. You know, not just on the breaking news and whatnot that's happening, but especially the behind the scenes, the New World Order, the psychology of things, and, you know, really diving into the deeper meanings of these subjects. And so there's an article I sent you earlier. I'm not sure if you got it. It's in our private chats. 6 radical shifts being put in place by the New World Order out of Waking Times. And honestly, it came out a few years ago. I've shared this article as much as I can with people because of how well it really demonstrates a lot of what's going on. But it really hits on a lot of the things that are taking place right now, even before some of these shifts really started to become mainstream. So in a way, it kind of predicted the future of some of what we're seeing currently.
Yeah, it's a wonder that all this stuff is programmed. It's all programmed in television, Hollywood. It all sets the narrative. You get indoctrinated, it gets impregnated into your subliminal mind, and then when it happens, it's like, oh, it's supposed to happen. You become conformed to it. It's that ritualistic magic we're always talking about. We got a couple minutes here before commercial break. I wanted to go through some of these comments and give some shouts out. We got Luis says, imagine Putin starts impaling the New World Order. I mean, like it sounds good until Putin is in charge, though, right? He impaled the New World Order, and then we just got a bigger problem. We have the Putin World Order, would run, and he wants to make it a Christian world order, which it's funny that the New World Order seems to be very atheistic, because that's what communism is. It's the worship of the state. Someone said, maybe Alex Jones is banned from Europe. I don't know, Lewis. I don't think so. I don't think he's bad. Melissa Pfeffer says the conversation about Nimrod and the Babylonian history is very interesting. Someone says, I support Putin, a.k.a. Dracula reincarnated.
It's interesting because it's actually plausible for people to believe, not plausible that it's a thing, but I can see why people would believe that, as long as we're talking about, I'm assuming the meaning Dracula as in Vlad Dracul, Vlad the Impaler, the Romanian king who fought against the Turks and the Ottomans and whatnots. I can definitely see how people may believe that Putin is like Vlad the Impaler reincarnated. Don't believe it, but I can see how people can.
People have a lot of weird beliefs. Glenn Zarmanov, who was on the show, is tuning in, and he said they were using video game footage for Russian fake news.
Yeah, that was actually in the article from Off Guardian that we aggregated on Rundown Live that we had up earlier. They had video game footage that they were claiming as Ukrainians shooting down a Russian aircraft, when really it was from the video game Arma 3.
So don't go anywhere. We're going to commercial break. We'll be playing a very special tribute to William Cooper, a small music video we called Dat Mystery School, where he talks about the New World Order and their beliefs in Luciferianism and sun worship. It's a 5-minute clip. So if you guys want to see that, don't go anywhere. Tag your friends. Let them know to tune in. An ode to one of the originals way back. Maybe, plagiarize like everyone else, but gotta love William Cooper. We'll be back from the Rundown Live, rundownlive.com, after these words from our sponsors.
I don't want to talk about it.
I don't want to talk about it.
Families don't have to talk about everything, but they should talk about how to plan for an emergency. Get tips and resources to make your family's emergency plan.
Hey members, the new KGRA-DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA-DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA-DB.
Welcome to the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. Here you'll find great new content, including the KGRA Classics, great shows from our archives. You'll be able to see the show times and information so you can see what show is currently on air. The on-air live button. So just go to this section and you'll be able to hear the show live with exceptional sound quality. We also have the vault section. Make sure to subscribe to get access to great content and special features. We have the make content for our latest news and events, so make sure to sign up and you can be part of our forum. So make sure to check out the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, the KGRADB.com. We look forward to seeing you there, and we hope that you enjoy the new website.
Now, you don't know it yet, but you are listening to History in the Making while you are listening to this show.
We know now that in the early years of the 20th century, this world was being watched closely by intelligences greater than man, yet as mortal as his own.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!"
Censored by the mainstream media, the destroyer of fake news, and your host of the Rundown Live, Kriston T. Harris.
And we're back from commercial break on the Rundown Live, therundownlive.com, on Hudson Valley, New York, Salt Lake City, Utah, bringing you news out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Thank you guys for tuning in. We're here weekdays on the therundownlive.com. And we put together this little ode to William Cooper a few years ago on the Rundown Live, but it fits in perfectly because we're talking about the New World Order. I'm one of the few people, I think I'm the only person that filed a Freedom of Information Act request on William Cooper and got back 300 documents from the FBI on their surveillance and basically the death of William Cooper. If you want information on that, I have a new article that will be coming out, and I've done previous Rundown Live podcast episodes going through 300 pages of William Cooper's life, including the fact that they were interested in him mostly for his belief in the Oklahoma City bombing being a false flag attack, which, you know, what happened there? And the fact that he was interested in a global cabal, a new world order, and the Illuminati, believe it or not, that was right there in the FBI report. So they watched him. They rented out apartment complexes across from where he lived. They literally did surveillance from the sky because of tax evasion. Let's not forget, that's really why they were interested, tax evasion. They were going after him for the taxes. They literally rented out apartments so they could spy on him, and they asked the groceries and gas station. The guy, whether you love him or you hate him, there's a lot of things that were told within the Freedom of Information Act request that I got that I could really drill him on. But, you know, I want to focus on the material and the information that he brought. And because of him, through shortwave radio in the 80s and 90s, a lot of people learned about this and were able to really foster and grow healthy ideas, or at least, you know, challenge the official narrative. He was doing what Alex Jones was doing before Alex Jones, and as we know, he was murdered in 2001. This is our ode to William Cooper called Dat Mystery School about the New World Order.
What you are hearing, folks, is for the first time in history the public revelation of the origin, the history, the dogma, and the identity of those who operate in secret to bring about a worldwide totalitarian socialist government. They are known to Christians as Mystery Babylon. It is an ancient religion. Those of you who are smart enough to know what is transpiring here know that these are historic broadcasts, and by making these broadcasts, I have sealed my fate. The sun enters each heavenly sign or house of the zodiac in what is called the 30th degree and leaves at the 33rd degree. Thus, God's Son is said by the ancients to begin his ministry at 30 and dies at 33. A Freemason is not told the truth of the object of his worship until he attains the 30th degree. And this is why the highest degree in Freemasonry is the 33rd degree, for no one can rise higher than the sun. When viewing the shimmering rays of sunlight on a body of water at dawn or sunset, one can still see today how God's Son walks on water. It was well understood by ancient man that our weather was caused and controlled by the sun. It was a simple fact that God's Son had the power to control storms at will. The ancient Egyptians taught that he did this as he rested in his heavenly boat while crossing the sky. Thus we read that God's Son quieted the tempest or great storm on the sea while in his boat. Which boat? The boat of Isis. Ra, the sun god, also known as Osiris, in the bark of millions of years in which he traversed the heavens, he wears on his head and accompanies a vast sun disk symbolizing his powers as Lord of the heavens. The boat formed of a serpent bears his eye, and the god is seated on a pedestal representing Mayet, the divine order. Folks, when we stop to realize that every single king, prince, lord, governor, dictator, despotic ruler, civil and social institution, national flag, coat of arms, educational institution, military medal, award, organizational insignia, medallion, badge, emblem, citation, trophy, banner, pendant, political standard, or ensign, agency of government, or religion uses the sun as a primary symbol, then it can truly be said in the mystery school that God's Son is, quote, King of Kings and Lord of Lords, unquote. A worldwide totalitarian socialist government. They are known to Christians as Mystery Babylon. It is an ancient religion. Those of you who are smart enough to know what is transpiring here know that these are historic broadcasts, and by making these broadcasts, I have sealed my fate. A worldwide totalitarian socialist government.
And that kind of dived into the history of what the New World Order believes. Like Nimrod, Osiris, they're all sun deities. Osiris was cut into 14 parts. Nimrod was cut into 14 parts. Nimrod had monuments that are obelisks to represent the reproductive organ, just like Osiris has monoliths made for him. And it's interesting that there's like a lot of people out there that believe that they're the same individual, just different names. Like we have different languages for different gods across the world. So we've been diving into the history of the New World Order, who is behind it. We talked a lot about the Rockefellers. Now we've talked a lot about the bankers a little bit. The bankers are the ones who founded and funded the Adam Weishaupt utopian agenda and dream. Of course, they fund everything, right? You got to have a banker these days to get your money, and pretty soon it'll be all central banking digital currency. As we're seeing, like we're being bombarded with globalist agendas from every principled avenue that they can drive down. And, the term the New World Order, like what we're hearing now coming out of Ukraine, this clip here.
Right now, it's a critical time because we know that we not only fight for Ukraine, we fight for this new world order for the democratic countries. We knew that we are the shield for the Europe.
The New World Order is now just openly having, like, they have militaries now. I guess the New World Order has a military. They're just like, yeah, we fight for the New World Order. Who would have thought? I thought it was the UN. Now it's Ukraine. Maybe Ukraine is NATO, and NATO is the New World Order, and United Nations is just the Adam Weishaupt, wet dream there. Because that's what we're really seeing. What we're really seeing is playing out in front of us, and what is playing out in front of us where Russia is being led, and you could see it where they could possibly join sides with China and to kind of fight for their individual freedoms, and then they'll fight off against each other or whatever is left. Whoever gets in battle is going to lose a lot of people, and somebody's going to come over and take them over anyways, because, you know, that's the way it goes. They want to pin people against each other, divide and conquer. So, you know, New World Order, radical shifts in the world. Here it is, 6 radical shifts in society being normalized by the New World Order. And we're going to put this on the screen if that's okay. Don, you brought this up, and I think it's perfect to segue to this. In some degree, the term New World Order seems to be falling out of vogue as the information war presses onward. With so much corruption and perversion being exposed, every sector of society who has time to consider the overarching idea that forms the ideological foundation of it all. The term, the New World Order, has evolved in an unspoken finish line that anyone in power strives for. It is not a particular group any longer per se, but rather a supreme idea that total centralization of power is the foregone conclusion for the people of Earth. That's right. You get a world leader. Quote, I don't think it's a right to frame the New World Order as necessarily a policy or group. I think it's more part of an ideology of globalism that has been explicitly articulated in various ways by various people who are linked but not always directly like we might think, James Corbett says. To manifest an idea as big as this for the entire world requires sweeping changes to how people live, what they believe, what they value, and how they interact with each other. Okay? And when we start talking about this, right, we start talking about the New World Order and how they're really affecting our culture, amongst other things. We're getting culture bombed. We're being propagandized. We're only allowed to see certain information, not all information, so we can make good decisions with the information that is provided. They manifest an idea as big as this for the entire world. It requires sweeping changes. They want to change everything. This is the proverbial boiling point of water, slowly cooking the frog who won't notice the rise in temperature until it's already too late to jump for escape. We are slipping into a dangerous territory, and while there is backlash brewing against many aspects of this, it is advantageous to take note of the full spectrum of the societal alterations we are now witnessing today. Permanent war. We're always at war. War at drugs, war against terror. We got war against domestic terrorism now. War against, fake news. War against misinformation. We're nonstop getting tackled with war. Now we got war in Ukraine. We've been warned by Orwell that totalitarianism requires permanent war, flipping the script so that war is peace. Randolph Bourne explained to us that war is the health of the state. We've been at war now continuously for 16 years and has become such an ordinary part of life that no one cares where the wars are or how we got involved. No one cares how dependent our economy has become on resupplying the bombs and weaponry which destabilize the world. Think about that. Also, an agenda by the New World Order is the denial of human nature and natural law. Society is developing in such a way that the values can no longer be agreed upon, and values which run counter to nature are being pressed to the top of the public consciousness. Just think about all the genders and, all the propaganda that we're getting pushed upon, and this whole agenda of confusion. Confusion over gender identity is perhaps the best example of this, as we now see government enacting laws to punish people who insist that our biological nature is and always will be indisputably clear. Cashless society. I mean, we're seeing that now. Total surveillance and end of privacy and cannibalism. This is almost too bizarre to even talk about, but cannibalism is being normalized in the mainstream culture. The theme has been reoccurring quite often now in movies, and we were going to talk about this. We never got to this article. There's literally a new Disney program about cannibalism, I believe.
Wow.
They're putting it out. They're putting out a program on cannibalism that's probably on Hulu or some. Programs in music video and news stories involving cannibalism are frequently found in mainstream media as front page news. Cannibalism seems like an outlier in the agenda of the New World Order because it plays an especially important role in devaluing human life and encourages people to willfully participate in zombification of oneself. Yeah, let me pull this up. But we have been seeing a lot of this cannibalism propaganda.
Yeah, and it's something that I've been at least somewhat privy to over the years, because I'm a big as I mentioned before, I'm a big horror movie guy, and who doesn't like a good horror movie, who like a good zombie movie, Dawn of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead, George A. Romero. But when put in the proper context of the way that Hollywood manipulates minds, it's pretty easy to see how the zombie genre, like The Walking Dead, I mentioned the show just the other day, like this genre has become so popular.
Huge.
And it's a way of controlling and manipulating the mind, one, to dehumanize people, because zombies, you genuinely look, they're just regular people. They're anthropomorphic, they're reanimated corpses. So you can view something in a way of dehumanizing it, and then it normalizes the aspect of cannibalism.
Yeah, here it is. Warning. Poster for Hulu Searchlight movie Fresh. It's called Fresh. Is as disgusting as the movie itself and genius. They call it genius. And basically, its logo is a hand packaged, like you could buy it for meat for $15,900. So it's probably not cheap to be a cannibal. Obviously, Hulu is announced Fresh will be launched. A totally disgusting movie, just like the poster. Disney Searchlight bought it as a gift for Hulu. Yeah, we're going to buy you a gift, Hulu. We're not going to get you some cool Marvel movies, or we're going to get you a cannibal Disney Disney Searchlight's bringing in a cannibal movie. It's called Fresh. It has an 85 on Rotten Tomatoes, so other critics and bloggers obviously liked it. They certainly aren't vegetarians. The premise of the movie is that Sebastian Stan plays a doctor who kidnaps women, vivisects them, eats pieces of them, or sells them off and eventually kills them. It ain't the meat, it's the motion. Is not sung at any point though. P.S. This is a genius graphic design. And literally Disney is putting out this show, and it's getting positive views. What's the other one? Dexter. It's not cannibalistic, but it's degrading to human life. Here you have a cop who kills other serial killers outside of the law, who is a murderer.
And before Dexter, we had Hannibal Lecter, Hannibal the Cannibal. Silence of the Lambs is still one of the most popular horror movies out there.
But and then we just talked about synthetic cannibalism. We talked a little bit about Ben Zion burgers and how he was taking his DNA cells and cloning meat with them, and he was trying to see if he could live off of it.
Didn't he get hella sick because of that? Like I think you told me about that. Like after some period of time of only consuming his own synthetic meat, he got really sick and had to stop.
Yeah, I think something like that happened. I mean, it didn't look appetizing. I mean, he used to put hot sauce and stuff on it. So it must have been, I bet you had to, can we change the topic?
Definitely.
Oh, but really, it's weird because cannibalism, human sacrifice, that's Babylonian mystery religion. It's all about forming and tuning the tuning key, like Glenn Zion mentioned on 9/11 about the World Trade Centers being a tuning key to tune the world into a certain type of consciousness. It was mass mind control. At least it was used as that form, whether or not you believe the official narrative or not. It was how it was used by the mainstream to tune everyone and gather that energy to go up against Afghanistan and really further the globalist cause all around. And then because of that, we have surveillance and spying and facial recognition and artificial intelligence. Imagine if they couldn't collect all your metadata, right? And AI requires metadata to have an understanding and interact with you properly every day. They would literally be castrated if we gave them or took away the ability for mainstream and social media and anything like government to collect metadata on you, because they need that information. Their systems and future systems thrive on data. Your data is worth more than gold, and you just give it up. I'm just telling you that. It's crazy, but that's so now we have this New World Order concept. It's out there in the open. Ukraine fights for the New World Order. I could show that to everyone with a Ukraine flag on their profile who is virtue signaling right now, and all of them would be like, whatever, that's conspiracy stuff. And
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned virtue signaling, because that's really what it is. It's a point that I've made for the past several days, that especially when it comes to Americans really only care about what their TV tells them to care about. And that's one of the biggest driving factors behind all this stuff. You didn't see them crying these tears for the massacred civilians in Yemen or in Syria or any of the countless things that I've talked about previously. Like, I don't need to get repetitive about it. I've mentioned it on what our past 3 or 4 shows at this point. But it's just really the way that people are engineered and manipulated to really care about one thing and not another is interesting. And we even had an article on Free Thought Project earlier today that says, if you're crying about Ukraine, but you haven't shed one tear over Yemen, you're being manipulated. And it just kind of goes into talking about how our society is engineered to care about things. And it's sort of the way we see this whole Russia Ukraine conflict coming in, and like we mentioned previously, taking the place of COVID-19 and the COVID-19 84 sort of paradigms. It's we're shifting from one mass crisis to the other to psychologically and continue to manipulate people and keep them in that state of fear. It was fear COVID, and now it's fear nukes, fear Russia, fear of war. It's a constant state of low vibrational fear and manipulation to keep you in states of high anxiety, high stress, high fear, high anger, high sadness, because all of these low vibrational emotions make it very easy to manipulate people subconsciously. That's why, as I said yesterday, you always have to lead with love and compassion and really think for yourself and make your own decisions.
Right. And that's why we read you quotes like this. Quote, "It's time for a new world. It's time to move beyond Abrahamism. It's time to revalue all values. Every Abrahamist value should be scrapped and replaced with rational values based on mathematics, science, philosophy, and psychology. Faith should be replaced by knowledge." Adam Weishaupt, founder of the Bavarian Illuminati. And that's essentially what we're seeing. We're just seeing this whole, like, if you want to learn about what's going to happen in the mental capacity and the global social engineering agenda and how we dismantle it so easily on the Rundown Live, talking about these things and seeing it, it's because we've studied and read these things. We've read these books. We've read these quotes. We've dived down into them. We've listened to a lot of information, and we've done a lot of research.
Indeed, and it's just, another one of these multiple facets of this ideology that has sort of made its way throughout all of history.
Yeah, that being said, while we're here and we're talking about this, in this globalization, there's the censorship aspect of things, but they're throwing the social credit score. That's also in the news, and here we go. We're going to pull up this article that you mentioned just prior, and I'll let you go through it a little bit.
I don't see anything on the screen yet.
It's, if you're suddenly yelling about Ukraine and having been silent on Yemen, you're being manipulated, because there's a lot of things that are going on in this world. It's funny that the TV decides what is important for you, right? The vision that tells you lies, the tell lie vision.
Indeed, yeah. So apparently this was aggregated by the Activist Post. It was actually published on Free Thought Project just earlier today. And it really goes into what I was talking about, is how, people are convinced to, care about one thing but not another. And it's sort of that sleight of hand manipulation, like we talked about on the show a couple days ago. You always have to wonder, if they want your attention on this one thing, what do they want to distract you from? That's always been the case with any of these circumstances.
Well, we have the digital ID, right? We have the social credit score. We have digital Federal Reserve cryptocurrency. We have war in Ukraine. We have nuclear war potential. We have loss of freedoms due to censorship and information. We're not, places in the world aren't being able to see all info to make good decisions for their lives. We're having medical tyranny. We're having we're getting hit on all levels, man. Essentially, we're being on nonstop attack, and the globalists don't go away.
And, it's interesting how all of this, this next level insanity starts just as we sort of get over the hill, and the lockdowns are being lifted, the restrictions are falling apart all over the place. The era of COVID-1984 is ending because the attempted plan of globalization and forcing everyone to get a jab and all this other nonsense, the scamdemic agenda, as it were, failed miserably, because thankfully enough people saw through it, saw what it was, or at the very least, had some questions about, hey, why are all of our civil liberties disappearing 2 years after you said 15 days to flatten the curve? And they stood up and rejected it. And so right as that whole thing really starts to collapse and come to an end. Oh, well, what happens? Well, now there's a potential world war. We have this thing in Ukraine. Everybody's scared about nukes and all this other craziness going on. So it's almost like the social engineers who really control everything, they whom we've been talking about this entire program, who really, pull the strings of the world, said, oh, well, plan A backfired, plan B, let's start a war. Let's get everyone, all scared about this thing.
Right, and we forgot about the convoys and the People's Convoys, however, which I'll be joining tonight. So make sure you guys are staying tuned at therundownlive.com, band.video, KGRA, and Facebook and YouTube will be streaming live probably tonight from where the truckers will be stationed in Indiana. And they have a big rally then tomorrow. We'll be there. And don't forget, tomorrow morning, we have Leo Lyons-Agami joining us to talk about global politics and what his viewpoints are on these things. He'll be joining us for about an hour at about, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Should be good and interesting as well. But
12:30 Eastern Standard Time.
Oh yeah, 12:30, 9:30 Pacific Standard Time. Boy, that'd be really early. My time zones. You'd think I'd get these time zones down because I've been traveling so much the last few years. But
Right.
East Coast, West Coast time, jet lag.
Mm-hmm.
So this is on the Gateway Pundit. I'm gonna say there's gonna be more of this happening in the world. Have you seen this video? It's someone recognizes the governor from what is this? Nevada, Las Vegas restaurant. And he literally talks him down about how he's a New World Order scum.
Mm-hmm.
I see more of this. Like I'm going to tell you, I believe that there's going to be more of this type of talk.
Yeah.
In terminology happening.
Can we put it up on the screen?
Yeah, we'll put it up on the screen. This is from the Gateway Pundit, which is, you guys make of it what you will. But YouTube, you New World Order traitor, piece of crap bastard. Wow. Dirty Nevada governor confronted in Vegas restaurant by a bitter constituent. And the term New World Order is getting more, used more and more. We're going to play this video here for you guys.
You Steve Sisolak, right? It's amazing. I can't tell you what a piece of fucking shit you are.
Sorry to hear that.
You New World Order traitor, piece of shit bastard. You're in here without security? Woo!
Yeah, and we're going to stop there. We didn't realize that there was so much vulgarity in this. I did watch it. I should have known better. But essentially he goes on a tirade and he's like, you're here without security? How are you doing that? Oh boy, you shouldn't be out in public with security. You're a New World Order traitor, piece of crap. He's just vulgar. People aren't happy. And my question is what's going to happen is somebody is going to be a loose cannon and they're going to do something. And anyone that believes in the ideology that the New World Order is bad, it's going to become one of those cliche terms you can't talk poorly about. It didn't exist, but now you can't talk about it because it might identify you as some form or threat as a terrorist, because we're starting to label everything domestic terrorism. People who believe in the New World Order, because that is against George Soros's global mafia state open society. And that being said, guys, we've been really diving into this. We got a lot of other news that we're going to cover here, including a rocket hitting the moon, allegedly. A lot of interesting stuff. Moderna faces new lawsuit over lucrative coronavirus vaccine and a whole bunch more. So don't go anywhere. Drop us your thumbs up. Drop some comments in the chat. And if you guys want to call in, we'll open up the phone lines for you guys this last half hour. Phone number here is 1-855-472-5483, 1-855-472-5483. We'll be back after these messages from our sponsors.
I don't want to talk about it.
I don't want to talk about it.
Families don't have to talk about everything, but they should talk about how to plan for an emergency. Get tips and resources to make your family's emergency plan.
Hey members, the new KGRA-DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA-DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA-DB.
Welcome to the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. Here you'll find great new content, including the KGRA Classics, great shows from our archives. You'll be able to see the show times and information so you can see what show is currently on air. The on-air live button, so just go to this section and you'll be able to hear the show live with exceptional sound quality. We also have the Vault section. Make sure to subscribe to get access to great content and special features. We have the make content for our latest news and events, so make sure to sign up and you can be part of our forum. So make sure to check out the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. We look forward to seeing you there, and we hope that you enjoy the new website.
Tune in to the Rundown Live weekdays on KGRA Radio. Kristan T. Harris, Don Vi Jr. Visit therundownlive.com. Rundown Live, rundownlive.com. I'm your host, Kristan T. Harris, with Don Vi Jr., and we're kind of been diving into what the New World Order is, tying it into Ukraine, upcoming events. As you guys know, I'll be joining the People's Convoy tonight. I'm hoping to gear up and catch a small nap before I hit the road here. I'll be joining them in Indianapolis. Should be exciting. If you guys want to support us, go to therundownlive.com. We have a couple different ways you can support us. You can go to the GoFundMe link and donate there. A lot of people are donating via Venmo or PayPal. That's available on our Linktree option on therundownlive.com. Also in the comment section in most of the platforms where we post this, but it's not hard to find out how to support us here. But, you know, we've been really looking at how this New World Order has developed, how we've known about it, how there was one once before, and where does that leave us? You know, technology is getting a little bit interesting. We talked about how the agenda is a post-human agenda where we merge with machines at some level. And there's a lot of people out there that are like, well, we're not going to do that. But you don't realize you're not going to have a choice. You're not going to have a choice because nanobots will be dancing and partying in your brain, according to Ray Kurzweil, by 2030, and you'll be hooked up to the brain cloud interface. I wonder if they're doing it through chemtrails, you know, aluminum and barium, and, you know, they collect inside of you, and then you can send magnetic signals and send it to the cloud interface. You can download like languages, you know, right to your brain. It'll be like the Matrix, yeah, maybe, or something like that. But, you know, it's interesting. Will we be robotic? I don't know. Will people be connecting their brain to the internet? Absolutely. We already know that's the agenda. What they plan on doing is downloading your consciousness into a computer, and then, you know, they can just clone you a new meat suit. And then if you die, it'll be like, what's that Netflix movie? Like Altered Carbon, where you can just get yourself a new meat suit. They'll rent out your body. That'd be crazy. But here it is in the news. Scientists say they've figured out how to grow new bone using sound waves. Did you know that sound waves can help you grow new bones? They can grow new bone from a patient's own cells as well. Scientists from the Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology in Australia have managed to regrow bone by firing high-frequency sound waves at stem cells, a potential breakthrough in regenerative medicine. I wonder if this is going to get us one step closer to the little handheld thing the doctor used in Star Trek. He just kind of waves it over the wound, and the wound disappears. Uses sound waves.
Yeah, who knows, man? Because this sort of technology. I mean, there's always the sky's the limit, essentially.
Yeah, definitely. By the way, I forgot to mention we have open lines. You guys want to call in? The phone number here is 1-855-472-5483. Give us your thoughts on the New World Order or on Ukraine or anything else. If you guys want to call in, the number is there on the bottom of the screen. We'll leave it there for you guys so that you guys can call in at any times. For those who are listening on TalkStream Live, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, and all the other streaming audio platforms, including KGRA DB members only area, the phone number here is 85 KGRA Live or 1-855-472-5483. So we like to keep you up to date on tech because, this is the stuff that is coming down the road for future. And, there's interesting things that happen in science. And now that we're able to monitor things like brain waves, we start to get a better idea of how people think. They can even print out images of what you're thinking of in your head. That's how scary the technology has gotten. And scientists here in this next article, scientists recorded the brain activity of a person as they died, and the results are astonishing. He died while he was hooked up to a brain monitor, and what scientists saw a fascinating glimpse of the end. It turns out your life might actually flash before your eyes when you die, or at least that's what some researchers are suggesting in a new first-of-a-kind paper that revealed brain activity of a dying person. The scientists were initially studying the brain waves of an 87-year-old epilepsy patient for seizures using an electrophalography EEG device, according to the team's paper published in Frontiers in Aging and Neuroscience, keeping on top of our transhumanism. However, the patient had a heart attack and died during the study while still hooked up to the EEG. This gave the researchers a unique opportunity to record 15 minutes of brain activity of a dying person. The researchers found that there was an increase in brain waves known as gamma oscillations, which typically occurs during dreaming and memory retrieval. So a person who is dying, they suggest, might experience glimpses of their life flashing before their eyes. And boy, bro, how many times have we seen that in movies or in cartoons, or people who thought they were going to die and they said, "Oh, I saw my entire life, gleam between my eyes." They went and experienced those, and their mind and mental state, it's preparing them for death. Isn't that interesting that they're finding that's what actually happens?
Yeah, it really is. And, I think the more neuroscience evolves, we really start to get a greater understanding of the human mind. And I actually shared this article the other day. It was originally posted by Matt Agorist, our editor-in-chief over there at the Free Thought Project. And I thought it was really interesting because that he posted that on his Facebook page, I believe either from this or another science website. And so I went on ahead and I gave it a read. And I went on ahead and shared it myself because, like I said, it's just really fascinating. The more neuroscience develops, we start to really understand how our minds work. And I had a friend of mine comment on there and start talking about the DMT in our brain, the dimethyltryptamine, which is essentially a chemical that our brain produces during certain states in dreaming and also at death. There's a massive dosing of dimethyltryptamine that occurs in the brain, which in some cases, people say assists, the body as it goes through its, final phases of death. And that's also a reason why people who do DMT as a drug, because it can be obtained from other places other than just inside the brain. I think Joe Rogan is most famously known for talking about, you ever done DMT, man? You ever done DMT?
Clockwork Owls and tap into, the Anunnaki and
Yeah, and so I think that's why it's plausible in my opinion that if you do a hit of DMT and you might be able to tap into a higher consciousness or your third eye or your pineal gland, because that's exactly what happens. It accesses your pineal gland, which, as we know, is the gland that connects people to their spiritual and higher conscious sort of abilities. So we're just learning more about this sort of stuff, and I think that's it's really important for the progression of humanity and science in general.
Did you see this article? Toothpaste is $10.
Excuse me?
Toothpaste is shooting up in price because of inflation. $10 toothpaste, U.S. household goods maker face blowback on price hikes.
Shoo. Glad I don't use Colgate.
I'm using the charcoal outside off the grill, Go to Infowars. They have some killer toothpaste. Not even lying.
Yeah. Fluoride free.
Yeah, fluoride free. I think it actually is charcoal. I use charcoal toothpaste.
Yeah, charcoal-based toothpaste. That's the best one to use anyways, the charcoal-based toothpaste that's fluoride free.
Like I don't know. I just I like it because my teeth feel cleaner at the end.
Yeah, because it's something about, I don't know the chemistry behind it, but I've read about it. It's like something about the substance and the consistency of charcoal. Like it does help clean things better than normal. And the lack of fluoride, also helps, make sure your pineal gland is not calcified, tying into what we were just talking about, ironically. So there's that.
That's it. I need a toothpaste expert on the Rundown Live. We need a well, we probably know one. I know a fluoride expert. She's probably done a lot of research. She contributes to Rundown Live out of Green Bay. Colgate CEO Noel Wallace said last week at an industry conference that household goods maker sees its new Optic White Pro Series toothpaste is a type of premium product vital to ability to raise prices, which will help drive profit growth this year. His remarks come when many consumer product companies are hiking prices anyways, as much as they can to offset their own rising costs, a trend that could continue down due to the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, which, by the way, the inflation, that's going to lead to Wall Street's going to be hit hard. Is this?
We see how it plays into the controlled implosion of the economy. We've talked about that for years, how the Federal Reserve is, specifically collapsing the value of the dollar. That's all of this is playing into everything we've warned about, folks.
Yeah. Are we setting ourselves for a systematic economic collapse and rise of a central banking digital currency?
Yeah, I think it's been on track for a long time. We've talked about, the Federal Reserve. I mean, there's we've mentioned James Corbett a number of times in this program today. And, if you don't know him, especially for our Band.video people, new viewers coming on to the show, and even longtime listeners, if you don't know James Corbett, the Corbett Report, definitely check him out. He's one of the OGs of just amazing journalism.
I can't believe we've never had him on the Rundown Live. Out of all the guests, we've had amazing guests, everyone from G. Edward Griffin to Jordan Maxwell to, just people from all over, from all points of view. We had Prince EA on. We've had people like Michael Graves from rock band The Misfits. We've had all sorts of different people on the program.
But so Corbett has had this great documentary called Century of Enslavement, The History of the Federal Reserve, and he really does a good job of explaining how our entire economic system is deliberately set up to fail. So we're just seeing, the late stages of this.
Right. So this is where I was going to go with this. So what we're seeing now is the sanction that Russia allegedly is facing financial meltdown. Is that going to trigger a domino effect on economies?
Yeah, more than likely. Yeah, and I think it's designed to.
And where does this go? I'm just throwing that out there. And does that put Putin in a quarter for him to act like a rabid dog? And that's why we're seeing the nuclear war type warnings because of the sanctions and the way they're melting down his economy. And what's this overall effect and impact going to be on inflation? What happens once Amazon's like, I'm not shipping to Russia anymore?
Right. Yeah. All of these things have consequences. And, I believe one of two things, maybe not one of two things, but at least the two most likely things happening is, we have not even the two, but maybe, occurring simultaneously is we have this, this whole meltdown going down. And then at the same time, it could be a lot of saber rattling, of course, as we mentioned earlier, both sides being sort of funded and having their strings pulled, just to cause as much chaos and collapse as possible. And, it looks like it's a genuine conflict and we might be on the verge of real nuclear war when really it's just a bunch of globalists trying to scare the crap out of everybody.
Well, here it is. eBay suspends shipping services to Ukraine and Russia.
Wow. I had not heard of this.
Yeah, that's broke 2 hours ago.
That's
I lied.
wild.
3 days ago. 3 days ago. I'm just taking a look at Amazon warehouse in Alabama set to begin second. No, nothing there. Nothing from Amazon. Of course, these big guys want to make money while they can and get stuff to the Ruskies while they can. But who knows how long their money is going to actually have value if they don't accept it as a form of global currency, and then it'll go down to gold and silver, and then allegedly, it'll push Putin in some kind of crazy corner, and that's why we have this going on. This is coming from the Pentagon. Pentagon is studying Putin nuclear order. Officials also, U.S. officials on Monday called Russian President Vladimir Putin's order to mobilize his nuclear forces dangerous, but said they had not seen any indication of change in the country's strategic threat. Officials also said that Russian troops in Ukraine continue to move ahead slowly, hampered by fuel supply issues, and downplayed reports that the Belarus army intended to enter Ukraine as reinforcements for Moscow's invasion force. This is coming out of France, by the way. On Sunday, 4 days after Moscow launched the invasion, Putin announced that he had ordered his military chiefs to put the deterrence forces of the Russian army into a special mode of combat services. Officials at the U.S. State and Defense Departments said they were still trying to determine just what actions was being taken place in response to this order. We think provocative rhetoric regarding nuclear weapons and dangerous ads to risk of miscalculation should be avoided, and we will not indulge in it, the State Department spokesman said. Russia and the United States have long agreed that nuclear use would have devastating consequences, and have stated many times, including earlier this year, that a nuclear war cannot be won and must never be fought, the spokesman said. A senior Pentagon official said there have been no palpable change in the stance of Russia's powerful nuclear arsenal, but called Putin's order unnecessary and very escalatory. Quote, I don't believe we've seen anything specific as a result of the direction that he gave, end quote, officials told reporters. So a question for you. You would think if Putin made the call to nuke someone, there could be a coup. Like, you think they take out their leader at that point because you're going to destroy the world. It's like saying, yeah, I'm going to blow up the world. Do you think the Russians revolt against Putin at that point? Or do you think that they're going to just, I guess he has the power to hit the button? Does he have a special code? Or
I'm not sure. I actually have no idea of how the logistics of the Russia's nuclear arsenal works. Personally, I don't think the order will be given. I mean, that's just my personal analysis of the situation. I think the arming of the nuclear services and this whole talk of nukes, like I've mentioned, I think is just a really good way of, drumming up the fear around the world. And, I don't know if you call it naive or whatnot, but, I've tended to study, global geopolitics for quite some time. And, it not only geopolitics in general, but also how they connect to the New World Order and all these other sort of, hidden hands that really play a hand into everything that's going on. And it's like I've said, you can't have a New World Order if there is no world to have an order from, because, your elitist blood doesn't make you immune to radioactive fallout. So,
well, that's where we're going next here. So I wanted to see, I think a big telltale of which way the world is going by how many elites start going and cowering in their underground bunkers that they've had built. They're going to their islands and they're not leaving, and they're just locking themselves in their bunkers. That would be a telltale sign that somebody knows something, and it'd probably be within 24 hours they'd all start to move like that. And that's something we should be watching with this news. But manufacturers report a spike in demand for underground shelters since Russia invaded Ukraine. But an anthropologist who studies preppers says the real pros don't do bunkers. And that might be the case, right? U.S.-based companies specializing in building underground bunkers are reporting a surge in customer inquiries in the wake of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. But an anthropologist who has talked about this, for a long time, who studies doomsday preppers, says that the most hardcore members of the communities scorn fallout shelters as a viable survival option against the threat of nuclear war between global powers. Violent flare-ups in the U.S. and abroad tend to goose sales of certain products in the U.S. like firearms and pepper spray, but existential threats like nuclear war or climate change have prompted the rich to look at more expensive options, including fallout bunkers, massive stockpiles of food and water, and even specially outfitted apocalypse condos. According to Gary Lynch, the general manager of the Texas-based Rising S Company, which specializes in survival shelters, he has received an uptick in phone calls requesting information about the company's underground bunkers since Russia invaded Ukraine. Lynch provided Insider with documentation showing that his company sold 5 bunkers in February on February 24th at prices ranging from $70,000 to $240,000. He said Rising S Company typically sells anywhere from 2 to 6 bunkers a month, and that the winter is usually a slow season. So, people are buying bunkers, and
that's the general public.
That's the general public, yeah.
Yeah, and so I think it's, speaking of anthropology and really just looking at human nature and even a little bit of history, I think it's similar to what we saw during the Cold War. This the rise of bunkers and nuclear fallout shelters. It spiked during the Cold War, and for good reason, of course.
Right. And a lot of the old buildings still have those bunkers. We had an old Nike site near us too in Wisconsin. But as you mentioned, here it is: gun sales surge among women and certain minority groups, and gun sales are surging, of course, due to Russia and Ukraine, and people understanding more and more what the Second Amendment is about as they come here and they migrate and everything else from their countries. People want the right to protect themselves, but I think that the whole bunker situation is something to take a look at least. Because it actually gives you a glimpse into where these elitists, because look at like 9/11. Certain people were in the building. It's like, well, isn't that convenient? People got tipped off. And so if something happens in Ukraine and there actually is nuclear war, I mean, isn't that really what all the sci-fi movies have been preparing us for?
In a way, possibly.
Yeah. Anyways, moving forward, I got a new one for us here. Mystery rocket. Here you go. What does it say? Mystery rocket to crash in the moon in 3 days as China denies it's to blame. The impending collision has sparked a war of the worlds over who's responsible, and here's what we know so far. China says it's not responsible, of course. When will the rocket hit the moon? According to astronomers, a rocket booster will hit the lunar surface on March 4th after spending nearly 8 years tumbling through space. It will be the first time a man-made object has crashed into another space body without being aimed there. The collision will occur on the far side of the moon as the 1-ton hunk of space junk is traveling at around 2.6 kilometers per second. It is expected to produce a cloud of debris and leave behind a small crater, though no serious damage will occur. Maybe if we could show, watch it in real life, all the flat earthers, they would have a coming to Jesus moment, bro.
Hopefully.
No threat to humans or other spacecraft. They'd be like, it was a pre-programmed movie. They projected it on the big screen of the firmament. The smash up poses no threat to humans or other spacecraft. The object is probably part of a rocket that launched a small Chinese spacecraft called a Change 5T1 towards the moon in 2014. In January, space trackers calculated the piece of man-made debris was on course, and that's when they figured it out. It was first spotted by Bill Gray, who writes the popular Project Pluto software to track the near-Earth objects. He reported that the junk was a SpaceX Falcon 9 upper stage launched from Florida in February of 2015. So that's now we're getting space junk. It's gonna literally our trash is gonna hit the moon, and we're gonna have an impact with clouds, and it's gonna make a crater.
Yeah, that's always been one of the biggest issues when it comes to mankind's ventures into space. Is, now we're literally, it's not like we didn't do a bad enough job polluting our own damn planet. Now we're polluting space.
And just when you think the dynasties are done, right? We got rid of the Clinton dynasty. We thought that was going to happen. Hillary Clinton for president, and we thought we were done with the Bush dynasty. But there's a new Bush in town. Texas primary is George P. Bush's biggest test yet in GOP. Who is George P. Bush? You know of George Bush, George W. Bush, and of course Jeb Bush, and now we have George P. Bush, the last of the Bush family still on the ballot, greeted a small outdoor crowd at Austin Brewery, sounding like most Republicans running in Texas primary Tuesday. He'll secure the border. He'll support the police. He didn't mention Donald Trump, but his campaign passed out leaflets showing him with the former president, the man who mocked Bush's father, shoved aside the Bushes as a GOP standard bearer, and isn't endorsing him for Texas Attorney General. It's a heated race that if Bush doesn't win, will take America's most enduring political family out of elected office for one of the few times in the last 50 years. Good. We don't need like these like dynasties.
yeah, exactly. You know, when did American politics become dynastic?
It always has been, bro.
I know. It's rhetorical.
You know, we've always had these dynasties and power groups in the world, and another Bush just keeps on showing up.
Yeah, man. I mean, you know, hopefully one day Americans can finally wake up and realize that, you know, we don't need leaders and all that stuff that I talked about yesterday. You don't need somebody to govern you, and especially when it comes to these, you know, the most corrupt families in the world, you know, particularly with the Bushes and the Clintons. And it's just the way this whole system is set up is a joke, really.
So tomorrow, guys, I want you guys to know I will be in Indianapolis. If you're in the area, stop by, say hi. We got a huge Rundown Live family. We've been doing this for 12 years, so we reach quite a bit of listeners every year or every day. So if you're in the area, I know people have already reached out, said, hey, come on down to my area in Indianapolis. Come say hi, come to my tavern when you're in Austin and when you're going to these different places. You guys want to hear the Rundown Live or meet us, you can. I will be covering the Indianapolis event. There's a actual rally tomorrow, right? And I'm joining the American Truckers and Allies rally, or the People's Convoy per se. And they're rolling through Illinois today and going into Indiana. I will be joining them in Indiana tonight. I'll be leaving shortly after this broadcast. And we want you to know that we're very thankful. It was you guys who sent us out there. We've raised over $500. The goal is $1,500 by Saturday. But we've raised enough to cover gas and maybe toll, as long as gas prices don't go up towards $5 or $6 on the East Coast. Okay. But it would be nice to be able to stay at a hotel. And, you know, I'm on the road 7 days driving to DC. Then I get to hang out with Ford Fisher of News to Share. It'll be nice. And then they have a rally at the Washington Monument on Saturday. So tomorrow there's an event at Ted Everett Farm Equipment that's located on 11998 Indiana 39, Monrovia, Indiana. And you can find that on thepeoplesconvoy.org. The venue seats 2,000 people, so I don't know how many people are planning on coming, but get there early. If this train of cars is as big as they claim, it's thousands of people, so maybe not everyone can get in. Maybe it's smaller than what we think. We'll find out. I'll bring you guys the truth and facts, as you don't see very many people reporting. You think it would be as viral as the Freedom Convoy in Canada, but it hasn't been. So we're going to need you guys to share the Rundown live feed when we go live. We'll be live on Facebook. I don't know if I'll go live on YouTube, but for sure Facebook. I may go live on the Rumbler, good old Rumble. I may go live on Band.video. Who knows? KGRA. We got StreamYard, so we're going to try to use that from there as well while I'm on the road. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. Don't forget, tomorrow, Leo Zagami will be joining us. He's an author, and we're going to be talking about global politics. So all that being said, support us. You can find a place to donate, therundownlive.com, therundownlive.com. There's a GoFundMe option, or you can use our Linktree drop-down menu and donate via Venmo and or PayPal. We also take Cash App, The Rundown Live. You can't mess it up. Just send us a PM. We're very communicable. We'll talk to you. Email showtips at therundownlive.com. Tweet us. Twitter, Rundown Live, Chris Don T. Harris, Don By Jr. And any last thoughts other than, make sure you guys take care of yourselves and remind your loved ones you love them, and reach out to somebody you haven't talked to in a while. Don, what you got for last thoughts?
Always, tell yourself you love yourself, do something nice for somebody, drink some water, and, have a great day.
All right, guys, stay blessed. We'll see you guys tomorrow on the Rundown Live. Same bad time, same bad channel.